Hello, and thanks for joining us for this video case tip. I'm Brynne McBride of ABC for Health, here to give you a little bit of an update on what's going on with the state's Section 1115 demonstration waiver. We're going to revisit what was in that waiver in just a second and then give you an update, but let me first remind you that we have some resources you can visit by clicking on that information button you see at the bottom of your screen. Let's recap of what it is we're talking about. Well, Section 1115 of the Social Security Act lets states request that they make changes to their Medicaid program. These would be changes that wouldn't otherwise be allowed in federal law, but the state says that they can demonstrate they can do Medicaid better than what the federal law allows. These are called waivers because they will be essentially waiving some of the federal law that provides how Medicaid should be operated, how services could be delivered, or the type of services that could be delivered in the state. Wisconsin has used Section 1115 demonstration waivers throughout its BadgerCare history. It was one of the ways we added childless adults to our BadgerCare program not too many years ago. And this time around, Wisconsin wants to do something a little bit more dramatic. It proposed a waiver to the Department of Health Services, wrote the waiver and made it public. It was opened up for comment on April 19th. They held a 30-day comment period, and this is what they were asking for. Monthly premiums for childless adults, adding a service charge for using the emergency room, drug testing, anybody that wants to be a childless adult on BadgerCare Plus, instituting a work requirement for BadgerCare Plus for childless adults, and if people did not meet the work requirement, limiting the amount of months, consecutive months they could be enrolled. So there'd be a 48-month limit of how long you could keep BadgerCare Plus if you weren't determined to be working. These are dramatic changes, most of them centered on that childless adult population in BadgerCare Plus, but dramatic changes to how the program would be administered and eligibility for that program, adding new hoops and administrative hurdles to the process. Well, that comment period in the state of Wisconsin ended on May 19th. The state received over 1,000 comments. 1,050 comments were received, either in the form of people testifying at one of the two public hearings or by submitting written comments. I will bet you won't be surprised. Over 1,045 of the 1,050 comments were against the waiver. There were only 5 comments that in some way, shape, or form agreed with the way that the waiver was written. One of those was our lieutenant governor. Another one was one of our co-chairs of our Joint Finance Committee here in Wisconsin. So there were 3 other people in addition to the 2 elected officials that weighed in on this as well and said that they liked what the waiver was doing. That's 0.5% of the comments were in favor. Everything else said, no, we're not in favor of drug testing or work requirements or premiums or charging people to use the ER, kind of a cover charge for the ER. We don't agree that that's in the best interest of the health of the people of Wisconsin. Department of Health Services said that they would then tweak their waiver request. They changed a little bit about how premiums were charged. They also changed a little bit about that service charge for using the emergency room, and they submitted that to the federal government. That's the stage we're at right now. The federal government has received the state's waiver request. They are reviewing it. They can ask the state questions. They can ask for clarification, and then they next will post that waiver for an additional public comment period. The Department of Health Services will open a comment period that runs for 30 days. Notice will appear in the Federal Register. You can watch Medicaid.gov for status of when that waiver is posted. We'll be letting you know and bringing you more updates as that happens. You then have 30 days to submit written comments to the federal government. They do not have to provide a written summary like the state has to. It's one of the requirements along the way. They just have to review it and say that they're accepting comments. They will then issue a decision back to the state of whether or not they're approving, rejecting, or approving in part, rejecting in part the waiver request. Once it goes back to the state, the Joint Finance Committee here in Wisconsin said they want another set of eyes on it. As it was making its way through the waiver, through the comment period, Joint Finance Committee had their set of eyes on it, and they said they want to see it again. So we're not done. We're not anywhere close to done with this yet. Next immediate step, watch for it to be posted federally. There's a 30-day federal comment period, and then see what happens when it comes back to the state of Wisconsin. And we'll be keeping you posted all along the way. If you want to read that waiver request in its entirety, we give you the resources and the links to do that. You can also see the draft summaries. There was of the over 1,000 comments, the state did not post those comments. They posted an 8-page mini summary of some of the comments. They mostly selected those comments they agreed with. So it's a very short, very bizarre summary of public comment. There's been some great work done by some journalists Scott Bauer of the Associated Press did an open records request and got a hold of those over 1,000 comments, and he was able to inform the public of what was actually going on behind the scenes. You can read some of those sources yourself. We give you some more media coverage and some links to those HHS pages as well if you want to check those out for yourself. Thanks for joining us for this video case tip.